hello again. And today I'm here with Dmitry from EMA and Anne from Deloitte. Right? I'm going to talk a little bit about the complexity of clouds, a little bit about low-code, no-code. So I'd like to start first with an introduction from the both of you. If you can tell me a little bit about your work background and what you're doing nowadays.
Will be awesome.
So my name is Meyer. I'm a partner at Deloitte, and I work within our cloud engineering practice. And I think this topic is top of mind because we are a people business. So we live off building, attracting, and retaining talent, and also very specialized talent because we need to be able to serve our clients and actually support them. And I think that is becoming more and more complex, especially also when we look within the cloud area, because what we see is that our clients are, in terms of their maturity, the gap is widening, where we still see a lot of clients being in the early stages of their journey, whereas others are super mature. So that is also what I say, putting an additional demand on us, how we actually configure our capabilities towards those needs.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. I'm not sure if my mic works, but I'll try to speak out loud. So yeah, I'm Dmitry. You saw me today already. I do the cloud management thing. And when we started building this, like 6 years back, we realized that, okay, all of us, we are like more or less engineers. We can do ourselves whatever we want. But on the other hand, the engineering part of it, I mean, over the period of time evolves and makes our lives as even more complicated. And when we, thanks. 1, 2, 3, yeah, super. And when we talk about like the things like infrastructure management, we don't really do believe that this kind of the path that all of us would like to follow. That's the thing that makes us boring, right? Managing the infrastructure or building or deploying the applications or building these vehicles to do the CI/CD processes. So we realized, okay, let's try to simplify this and try to build something that has low code impact. So our end users, they need less skills to build something, to maintain and support the environments and all the things. So that's how we started build this, and I think today's conversation is really important. Thanks for having us, and yeah, let's move forward.
Thank you, Dmitry. So second part is I'd like you to elaborate a little bit about the challenges that you're seeing and the bottlenecks that you're seeing in the cloud market now, preventing many companies from reaching that next step of cloud adoption as well. What is missing in the market now for this to happen effectively?
So I think from my perspective at least, what we're experiencing that a lot of clients are struggling with is, what I'll say, the complexity that they're just facing, having private cloud, public cloud, on-prem, and actually managing that, and especially also from a skills perspective, to actually get some critical mass within each of these areas, because we also know that the talent, they thrive when they have peers that they can relate and work with. So I think the complexity challenge is one of the big challenges that we see, and we see that optimization, modernization, and innovation is actually replacing a lot of approaches to cloud, and instead of just having a cloud-first approach, those are the elements that are on top of our clients' agenda and challenges that they're facing right now.
Great.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been hearing a lot about multi-cloud nowadays, but it's a new term coined, which is the super cloud part. Could you tell us a little bit about what it means and what it entails as well? What is there a difference between the super cloud and the multi-cloud?
Yeah, so I think the super cloud terminology is a little bit of a buzzword. You might have heard meta cloud, super cloud. It goes in different flavors and terminologies, but more or less it's the concept of having, what I'll say, a layer of abstraction and automation that actually supports you across the different clouds, whether it's public, private cloud, and also serving your legacy applications. And the main goal here is to actually create some commonality so you don't drown operations in just additional work, which we see is one of the challenges for a lot of clients today. So that layer of abstraction is supporting our clients in getting more lean and streamlined operations, governance, security across the board. Because I think that's where a lot of additional capacity is used today. They're not really bringing the value, and I think that's another conversation. And I think a lot of companies and head of clouds are actually getting the questions from their board of directors and their CEOs and so forth. So where's that value and where's the business case that we discussed a couple of years back? And I think a lot of what I'll say that business case has been drowned in additional operations and complexity, and we need to figure out how to solve that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that point, because I mean we had the first session that we had today on so Carla's presentation, so that shift from cloud first approach to cloud value. Right? So companies being more surgical and taking more careful approach to the next steps as well, evaluating what actually makes sense to move to the cloud instead of moving everything to the cloud, right? So do you think companies have what it takes nowadays to perform this evaluation by themselves, for example, when it comes to cost management, when it comes to governance?
I think some companies are super mature. We see companies that are actually building their own centers of capabilities in-house and are actually able to cater for these various capabilities. And then again, I think that the gap is right now, as we speak, widening a lot. So we see a big gap in terms of where the late adopters are right now and the early adopters and the ones that have actually invested truly into to setting the right teams and actually having the right skills available.
Great. Yeah, since you mentioned the cloud, the skills part as well, I think it would be interesting to understand if you believe that the performance tools that we have today that are being offered in the market, they are also a chance for companies to mitigate this gap. Do you think they'll need less technical people if they have those tools in place?
So, in general, the answer is yes, but again, so the devil's in the details, right? When you're using the certain tools, let's say one tool for the cost management, the other tool for the networking management, the third tool for the analytics purposes, the fourth tool for the automation. So you need to know how to work with these tools. And again, so if you have an unlimited budget, you can hire 10 different professionals. But at the end of the day, you'll stay with like 3 cloud service providers, 7 tools on top to manage those cloud providers, and a lot of people who know how to work with these like different tools. And if anything happens, the other day Google acquired one of these companies and like make them die. So you need to change the tool, you need to like re-educate people, and all these things that we've been showing in your presentation. So again, in general, the purpose was to reduce the complexity, but as we've been discussing today multiple times already, with these tools we are like building more of this complexity. Because unfortunately, there's a huge lack on the market with like one-stop shop tools where you have embedded all the related features to your like infrastructure deployment and all the processes relating to like automation and lifting and shifting the workloads.
Great. So are these tools also aimed to non-technical staff to use them?
I think that, again, in general, it's better if the boring things, they are like, let's say, automated. So, and all these boring things, they can be handled with, say, lower technical stuff. If these products, these platforms, they are quite understandable, they have a similar approach when it comes to managing the different environments, different hyperscalers, local providers. So if it's an understandable tool, then definitely yes. But again, the high-skilled professionals, they should, in my opinion, they should do the other things, the bigger things, so they should invent something new, not managing the infrastructure, which is commodity, right? So it's obvious, and that's why like the companies all over the globe, the startups, they're trying to build understandable and predictable tools. They're trying to build all these algorithms that help us in our daily lives. So again, it's pretty much the same when you have this vacation and you're coming into the plane and you're not a pilot, right? You don't want to fly the plane, you just want to sit back, tighten like your strap and fly to the island and spend some time with your family. But in case you're a pilot, you can do this, but you never do this, you rely on someone. That's the same applies to the tools, even for the engineers. It doesn't make sense to replace the high-skilled professionals with these tools. It makes sense to support them with these tools to deliver the applications faster to the market.
Great. And if we take, for example, the fact that the cloud market is it's just increasing in its complexity as well. It's becoming more diversified. How can we ensure that those management tools and those platforms stay not only in touch, but kind of follow the level of technology adoption that we're seeing in the market as well?
That's a good one. I don't really believe they stay. I mean, in today's, let's say, reality and how they've been built, I don't believe they would stay forever with us. What I do really believe in, that one day there will be kind of a like standard that would unify the way people interact with the clouds, infrastructures, applications, the way how they deploy the things, the way how they lift and shift the things back and forth. So, and yeah, in this sense, that would be like we can call it a standard, we can call it the bigger cloud or Skype or super cloud management platforms or something like this. But this sort of a standard this standard will stay. And those like smaller applications, niche solutions, they will be gone. That's what I think.
Okay. And are there new trends or expectations, features that you expect to be rolled out in the next year that they're still not present, but that will make a big change in how companies as well manage cloud?
You're not making this easier. So I'm not a huge fan of this AI-related things, conversations, but definitely that this is something that everyone wants to hear. So yeah, okay, let it be AI. So everyone wants to build something that does kind of like artificial intelligence. But again, so I do believe that we are not there yet. It's like the same happened with the blockchain, right? So first time in my life I read about the blockchain in a book that's been written in 1960 something, and I was like, okay, what's that? And then we had this hype with this NFTs, Bitcoins, whatever. So the next hype is AI. But let's have a look let's have a look at what we have. In reality, we have the mainframes, we still have the hardware servers, right? We still, when we think about the future, we think about the robots, Mars, Teslas, whatever. But in reality, we still operate VMs, right? VMs, hypervisors, and we know nothing about, all these fancy technologies. So, in my opinion, and what I see from the different sources, different venture firms, bigger companies, so that's becoming reality, and only 25% of enterprise workloads they are in the clouds. So actually, we will spend next 5-6 years adopting the cloud the way the cloud should be adopted by the companies, right? And then we can talk AI, blockchain, whatever.
No, I fully agree with you. I think many companies need to get their fundamentals right first before overthinking about it.
Yeah, but I think there's a element here of actually looking at Gen AI as actually the accelerator for actually getting cloud right. I think that's at least how we see it, and we see that it's actually accelerating a lot of the foundational elements around data that we haven't seen before. We're working with big pharma around actually establishing that foundation and building center of excellences. And we see that accelerate due to the Gen AI fast adoption and rapid adoption. So actually, I think we'll see a lot of foundational stuff actually being fixed now with Gen AI as an accelerator and as a burning platform for a lot of companies.
Yes, I think you're right. On the other hand, this would definitely be like this until this OpenAI or whatever AI company will start competing with you or the customer for the resources, we'll call it service providers, right? Because you need to train the models, right? You need to get the resources. Right now we have Microsoft with OpenAI, we have Google with its own, we have AWS invested recently in another company that is building AI. They need to provide infrastructure, and then again, so yeah, definitely this AI, or generative AI, whatever AI, would definitely boost this adoption in cloud. But on the other hand, these companies, they will be also competing with all of us for the cloud resources.
In terms of the skills gap, I'm sure, but also I think that the point around that actually Gen AI will also educate faster. I think we shouldn't underestimate as an important vehicle, and that's also some of the things that we see happening right now. So when we look at skills, there's a lot around certification and getting people certified, but certification is just kind of a blue stamp on LinkedIn. I think where it really happens is on-the-job training, on-the-job learning. And right now, a lot of our clients, we are in the fortunate situation that we are a big organization. We have a lot of cloud developers, engineers, specialized. We can train our people on the job, but actually have people coaching each other. I think the future with a co-pilot, Gen AI enabled, that can actually monitor your work, that can actually coach you, that can be your sparring partner and be your tutor, will actually give the benefits of smaller companies actually being able to train their engineers, train their developers in a more efficient manner. So I don't think we should underestimate that strength of actually being that tutor in the future for specialized and very difficult skills. And I think that will revolutionize education also going forward.
Yeah, that's a good one.
No, I agree with you. Because then we're talking about two important aspects of learning and development. One that I touched on in the presentation, which is gathering the people analytics, the data to be able to lay out the plans that you need. And AI could be a very interesting tool to do that. And the second part is the mentoring side. Either if it's a digital helper or a person, the learning on the job, the mentoring side should be fostered as much as possible as well.
Yeah.
But there is another topic then, the quality of data you transfer to the AI, right? So otherwise, it's nearly impossible to teach anyone anything using this sort of a data which is like not qualified, not pre-qualified correctly. Right?
Yeah, I think there's a certain level of trust to be reached before those tools are widely rolled out as well. And I think it'll come with a better understanding from the industry on what the deployment of those tools entail, but also the regulation side. So how those tools are being perceived on a higher level as well. And that's, probably for the next chapters. We'll see how it's going to develop. Cool. Any other questions to add?
No.
All right. Thank you so much for.
If there are any questions, guys, feel free to ask. Yeah.
Somehow you see the cloud as given, as something static, and then you have the people around it and the AI which can do things, but the cloud itself is also changing, and the vendors try to build abstractions layer inside the cloud, so some things becomes easier to build microservices or work with Kubernetes and all these kind of things. How do you see this? How will this affect the skill gap that maybe that the vendors in order to be attractive and attract developers, that they somehow get it easier to make your things done?
Good question. So, I can repeat it. So the vendors itself, they do the abstractions, they try to help people to close the skills gap. They also do the certain automations, they help customers to deploy, for example, Kubernetes, like you mentioned, right? And how do we see this would be evolving, what's going to be in the future, what's going to happen in the future with this evaluation of the different vendors and their approach, how to simplify customers' lives, right? I don't really believe that these vendors, they do a lot for, let's call it, community of their customers, right? So the majority of things they do for profit, right? For their own profit. That's why you don't see any normal working migration tools working at the cloud service provider's edge. It's nearly impossible to migrate the data, let's say, from one provider to another using the native tools of the cloud service providers, because there's a huge vendor lock-in. Even with the Kubernetes that you've mentioned, they're building these layers of abstractions, but behind these layers of abstractions, they are hiding the infrastructures and actually the instances, and sometimes 2 layers of the instances that you pay for, right? And and it doesn't help you to deploy anything like really, really fast. And here's like a beautiful example. The Coinbase, you know the company, right? The crypto wallet. So American company, crypto wallet, they decided to launch a kind of a campaign, advertising campaign, Super Bowl, halftime period, right? And it's all bouncing QR code. The idea was you scan the bouncing QR code, you get $100 to start trading crypto. Super cool. They built completely on AWS. They are smart guys, Kubernetes, autoscalers, everything. The only problem is that in AWS it's nearly impossible to scale the Kubernetes beyond the single build alone. And when you have a lot of requests, you need to take the resources. When you take all the resources, you're done, right? So this illustrates how even with the bigger providers, with all this complexity reduction, with all this support of their end users, you still can fail. And in my opinion, in the future, we would utilize these providers as, again, as I said today already, as a commodity. So, and build something on top really agnostic that will help customers to deploy wherever the customer wants, however the customer wants, and the customer should stay absolutely careless related to the infrastructure that customer, let's say, leverages. And so that's I think the same approach that, for instance, we have with the YouTube, Netflix. Sorry guys, you've heard this like multiple times already. So, but you get your content out of the YouTube. You don't care about the CDN providers, networking providers, nothing. You just get the picture out of your TV. That's something that should happen one day with the clouds. That's what I think. Want to add something, maybe?
I'm not sure of kind of painting out that picture. It sounds good on paper, but I'm sure that there will be more complexity related to that, because I think every time you deep dive in and you see the benefits of building cloud native, you will not grasp those benefits. So I think it all comes down to actually the ability of your company to have a clear strategy on individual workload level, and actually do a deliberate decision on what you actually want to do with this workload, and what is the assessment of where should it sit, and what should be the fluency across on-prem, public cloud, or public cloud. So I think that's where the foundation is laid to have a clear strategy for that specific workload. And I agree with some workloads you need that fluency to deploy it anywhere, but not for all, because you need that agility in the market to be able to launch new services and actually tap into the innovation that the hyperscalers are building. You also see that regional and local clouds will be even more present. So I think just with China for China regulation, that's a totally different topic as well. So it will be a very much granular assessment on a workload level from my perspective.
My 5 cents, if you don't mind. So on just one last thing. On the cloud native, you're right. But the cloud native, I mean, again, we just like 5 minutes back we said that we operate VM. I said that we operate VMs, and it's like the way to go. With the cloud native, it's kind of a hard thing, right? So you have a lot of open source projects, different contributors, they do the different stuff. You need to be like a high skilled professional. You have this skills gap. But on the other hand, like the cloud strategy, you said it's a nice thing to have. The problem here is you need to understand how to employ the right cloud strategy. And to understand this, you need to be like a really mature professional who understands how the technology works. And even with the bigger companies, Amazon is a great example. Amazon Prime. So you're probably aware of this case. They've been moving into the functions, right? Serverless. They've built the platform and then they shifted back to monolith. Because even at Amazon, having their AWS, a lot of enormous number of engineers, they did the things wrong. They realized that for these sort of workloads, like they had with the Prime, with this like movies, whatever, that monolith approach would work better than the microservices. So not microservices, but serverless. Sorry. So again, we need to close this gap, and to close this gap, we need to eliminate the complexity. To eliminate the complexity, we need to give up on the cool features sometimes, but standardize in general the approach how we deploy the things.
Thank you.